I wish you guys the best with your Yum Yum podcast.
Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
I am very happy. How about yourself?
Apprehensive.
Apprehensive? Why would you say that?
Well, we're here to talk Killjoys. We're up to the final episode of season 2. And we'll get into, the details of the episode. But it is one of those episodes where I don't feel fully qualified to talk about it because it feels like its significance is only going to continue to grow.
There's a lot here.
So I feel like I'm just going to be stepping in things.
That's the joy. That's the joy of you being a first-time viewer of Killjoys. You don't know where things go from here. And with a finale, not only is it giving resolution to certain things, but it is also setting up things to come. Where will we go from here?
Yes. And I'm scared for our characters. Like, even though they're in somewhat of a stronger place now than they've ever been, they also are in more danger.
People have been lost along the way, but new people / old people have been gained as well. There's so much to think about here, but before we get into the minutiae of this finale, how about you just remind everyone who we are and what we do here on
We're
Yum Yum
called
Podcast?
Yum Yum because that guy, say hi. You, Ryan, say hi.
Hi.
Decided that we needed a podcast. Husband and wife team. We like to chat. Why not do it on recording?
We talk a lot about the things that we do watch. We have long discussions, analytical discussions, just shooting the shit discussions, and it only seemed appropriate. How about we hone those into something?
Yeah, and you'd had a long-standing podcast with a friend, so you were like, let's crack that can of worms open. It's COVID. We got plenty of time. And it was like, what are we going to call ourselves? We've got to have a name for the podcast.
We knew we were going to talk about sci-fi television. We knew that Star Trek is always the hook there.
Yeah. And a part of what tipped you over into going, no, we have to podcast. We have an obligation to the world.
It was bestowed upon us by the forces that be, yeah.
Was after we watched the second series of Star Trek Discovery.
The finale of that show had a very, very infamous moment.
Mm-hmm. What gave us the name Yum Yum? Because you were so delighted by the weird mix and nonsensical, but somewhat sensical, maybe if you look at it in a certain way, but actually, no, that doesn't even make sense in that way, line, which still just doesn't make any sense. It's like, hey, you want to go kill a guy? He's the current antagonist, not even the season-long one, but you want to go kill him? And a character's response is yum yum.
Yum yum.
Character might be a bit of a stretch.
An entity. We always tell this story, and Rachel always frames it as if it was me alone. Rachel was also very
I agreed
emotional.
to the name.
But you also...
But it was you were the driving force.
But here's the thing. When we saw that moment, you reacted just as strongly as I did. And this is a part of the story we don't emphasize enough. We had guests over. They were asleep. We were like, we've got to wait to watch Star Trek after Rachel's friend Brene has gone to bed. But Rachel screamed so loud at this Yum Yum moment that Brene had to come out of the room and check if everything was okay. And what Brene was actually saying was, did you guys just have a profound experience? That's what she was really saying. The main important thing is, we have gone through so many science fiction shows now, and we are currently doing Killjoys. We're up to this season 2 finale. I saw this show not originally airing until halfway through, like near the end of season 3. That's when I started watching it. I caught up, and then I started watching it week to week, year to year. But I remember this finale, of course. This is a big deal. This is one of the highest ranking episodes of the show, according to IMDb. So there's stuff to think about there. But with you, Rachel, this is a first-time experience for you. So as you say, there's so many things just to take into account. But even before I give us the proper summary and even the title, did you have any major expectations and thoughts on how this season could end?
I thought we were going to have a death of a side character. My bet was on Fancy because he's a 6, but that we've proven that they're not invincible, and them killing Klein just felt out of the realm of possibility.
He's been such a huge part of the show, and he's got such a huge connection to the main character, while Fancy, he was a former frenemy.
Yeah. One other thing that I thought was going to come into play was Johnny being married to Porter.
Mm-hmm.
And that coming up in some way and them using that as a tool against Dulcea.
We do know that the women come first in that hierarchy, so the sister would be the one that would be the more important, I guess, in terms of that family heritage stuff.
I was also looking forward to seeing how grief looked on Johnny, and I was anticipating him doing something extreme in response or from that grief.
And that does come to pass. Boy, does that come to pass. Now, here we are, up to episode 10 of season 2, How to Kill Friends and Influence People. What a title. What an amazing title. What a nice playful one. They're getting much more, as I mentioned in previous discussions, they get much more satirical and silly with their titles, but I like it. I appreciate that. Now, I have a summary here. We don't read the IMDb summaries because they give too much away or they don't say much at all.
Boring.
And
we got to switch it up sometimes.
We've got to switch it up. So my summary is actually going to be surprisingly simple because this finale, even though there's a lot here, it's very straightforward. So Team Awesome Force must team up with Klein and Fancy to break into an archive and find out Anila's secret.
The Yum Yum moment was a standout point in Star Trek Discovery, and we bring a certain Yum Yum perspective to each of the shows that we cover.
Yes, we do.
So, with Killjoys, it is the Yum Yum laugh. So, what is the moment, line, or gesture for you for this episode?
It was without a doubt, with no question, Fancy Lee being used as a human shield because he is invincible. Mm-hmm. I loved that. I enjoyed that so much. They set it up so beautifully, and just the hard cut and just the disappointed look on his face as he's having to make sure he blocks his head from being shot because of instant brain death is still a thing. But that was just, I liked how this episode used the powers of level 6s while on their usual Killjoys heist scenario. So very much got a big laugh and smile out of me. What about you?
You're a 6, not a 10.
Just keep doing your share.
My share?
Accept it, Jacoby. I'm physiologically superior now.
You're a 6, not a 10.
there's a quirk in Killjoys that we noticed fairly early on in the writing, which is...
Damn right, bitches!
They love to drop bitch or bitches in every single episode except for one. And in a finale, there's an exception to the rule. They just say, hey, have as many as you want. Have as many as you want. We got 6 bitches in this. 6.
Ooh, what?
That's half a dozen bitches. I was shocked. I was just so taken aback, but they were all there. Now, Rachel, I think it's official to say that we have to wait till episode 2 of season 3 for someone to get kicked in the genitals.
Yep, it's been 8 episodes.
What a sadness.
Since a nut shot.
Since someone... We haven't even had a cunt punt in this show. Do you think that chance will increase now that there's 2 Hannah John-Kamens in this?
No.
One of them might kick the other one. You ever think about that?
I do. Every so often.
Would you mind walking us through who the writer of this episode was?
You say writer, but that isn't true for this episode. There's 2 credited writers. Does that make up for the lack of a credited writer of that episode earlier in the season?
Well, he was a story editor and story by, but yes, I understand. It is interesting to have 2 writers in an episode. We don't get that very often.
No.
I can't recall the last time we did.
It
but...
feels like a huge thing. Like, 'cause one of the writers is Michelle Lovretta, show creator, showrunner, code writing with somebody else who is a frequent flyer.
2 other times, 2 times. So 2 times previously, they've been on Sugar Point Run, not a great episode. Jeremy Boxon, and then he did Come the Rain, which was a good episode.
Yeah.
This is the last episode of the 2nd season, so it's also interesting to see that Michelle Lovretta, who is always here for the big episodes, has someone co-writing with her as well. So that's kind of another fascination with this. And
makes you wonder what was going on.
Yeah, and I think they complemented each other really well in this episode.
It felt like a cohesive voice. It didn't... It didn't feel like, oh, this one feels a bit wonky, or that scene feels like this person. It was, during the episode, I was thinking, this doesn't feel like a full-force Lovretta episode.
I thought that the momentum of the episode was really well handled, and the marriage of having these little funny asides or these quip moments while also maintaining the overall tonal balance. Yeah, exactly. And we have a returning director for this one as well, Peter Stebbings, who did Come the Rain, a very good episode of last season. He is back again here, and he will return later in the show. The big thing of note with him when it comes to Killjoys is he comes in for the last season, and he does the 2 opening episodes of the last season. So that is just something to say there. But in regards to how to kill friends and influence people, what did you think of how he handled the execution of this in terms of the visuals?
I thought it was a really well done episode. We have our first major space battle, which was an interesting new development in terms of the style of Killjoys, for it to have something that's so CGI heavy. I thought that there was a good amount of, we're going to make this interesting and have this little bit of flair, while also having moments where it's like locked down and just simple. What did you think?
I thought the CGI space battle stuff was really fun because we don't get too much of it in this show. We get a lot of our characters doing hand-to-hand or running and gunning combat, so spaceship battles feel like
That's not
a
their
special
usual
treat.
type of getting dirty.
I like this episode. I thought this was a great way to wrap up the season. I found the emotional highs high. I found the resolutions to things that we've been dealing with to be very satisfactory. And the setups to the future things are intriguing. But as a finale goes, good. As an episode on its own, it's great. I just liked how it took those moments to breathe, and it took those moments to just have the characters talk to one another, as well as do the hijinks, the action, the pushing forward of lore and plot. It just balanced all of its stuff really nicely.
And it is a very straightforward and simple plot, like you pointed out when you were doing your summary, right? Because they've got to do the thing to get the thing. That's it. But there's the layers to it and the hurdles that they have to overcome and the impact that has on their relationships and the reflections of relationships, both positive and negative, sometimes in the same thing.
When it comes to a season finale, it very much feels like at some point in the landscape of television, I don't know if it was a 2010s thing or something.
The penultimate episode became the bombastic one?
Where the shit hits the fan, the highs are high, and then the finale itself is a lot more slow, contemplative. We still have things that are hooking us and making us want more.
Bridges to the next season, but it isn't the one where that happens.
It's less of a water cooler discussion type event than it used to be before.
Was the Red Wedding in a season finale?
No, that was, I'm pretty sure that was a penultimate episode as well.
'Cause
Like Game of Thrones did that a lot, where the penultimate episode, things go crazy, then the finale, things are still obviously engaging, but not to the same talkative extent. And so much of TV did this. I mean, when we discuss The Expanse as well as Star Trek Discovery, same thing there, where it was usually the second or maybe third last episode of the season would be the one where you are left with your jaw on the floor, more so.
People started to get pissed off with like the really obnoxious or intense cliffhangers. Like, you can't do a Dallas now. People would just get pissed off.
Well, we know that is also a fair thing to say, because not to say that the seasons don't have a cliffhanger type edge, but there is much more of a sense of finality and resolution. So if for some reason or another Killjoys got cancelled here, you would still be annoyed because of all these loose threads, but the finale itself still serves as a conclusion rather than the sole conclusion. While in some shows from yesteryear, like Space Above and Beyond, it really is like, oh no, we're not going to get more. I mean, we like the Space Above and Beyond finale. Like, it still has a sense of finality to it, but so many shows that were cancelled or didn't get to finish, you get to the final episode of that a given season of it, and you're like, oh my god. While in this landscape of TV, I don't know, it just doesn't have that same desire to make the last one the big punch.
Wow. This belonged to friends? Friends from where?
Way out of town. One of them won't be needing it anymore, and the other one, he's an asshole.
A part of this episode's simplicity is the answers that it does give us. And it's interesting the way that we're presented with some of those things. I'm mainly thinking about Klein's backstory that we get. Is very straightforward in what it's saying, but how it does it is what makes it interesting. because it's told sort of in these layers. Because we have sort of this memory of Dutch being told this story, and then within the story, we're seeing Klein's experiences mainly, but also beyond Klein. But it's through this like sort of fairy tale lens, and we see the finding, like when they first found the plasma, the experiments that Klein did, poisoning some cherry tomatoes.
It's symbolism, because they're seeing if they can grow stuff from the green goo. And even then, after that, he discovers new things about the plasma that if he knew beforehand, he wouldn't have done it in this exact way. And
very unethical science.
We see Anila in these flashbacks. We get to see Hannah John-Kamen there.
I want to say it now. Like, he says that she went crazy because she was too young when she underwent the process.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't look that young.
How much do you trust the story when you don't trust the storyteller? Klein is an unreliable narrator of events.
Yeah,
at the best of times.
It's outside of that he says that part. But it's like we can't trust everything that he says. But it also feels like at that point, what benefit is there to him lying to Dutch? Like, what?
Because he never tells the whole truth.
What does that serve in that moment?
We see,
and we won't know. Well, I won't know until
later, perhaps. But what you're talking about is later on. Klein is trying to explain himself, and he starts to give contrary information to Dutch from what we have seen. We got to see the story there, but how much of it is him then not telling that story to Dutch in their conversation? We perhaps know more than she does. What's wrong with Anila, though? In the flashback, in the story we're told, she did her own experiments where she made herself and the others more connected to the plasma itself, while he, being an early subject of it, had some autonomy still, which is why he is like how he is. He has not been fully assimilated into it, while she has.
Yeah, and she's given up so much of her quote-unquote humanity in that process, and has designed her approach to do that to other people.
Klein says as well that this plasma is a sentient alien force, and
Hullet. We have a name.
They have a name. They have a name. They have
and it
a
wants
culture.
to infect everything.
It just wants to unify them all. It's fine.
It builds off the bits and pieces that we already know. It recontextualizes some things. It fits within the world of the quad that we have gotten used to over these 2 seasons. It feels strongly rooted in the themes that Killjoys is interested in exploring.
It's not just, the company created something. It's something ancient and otherworldly, and it's an alien entity and force that ties everything together, and it's Klein's ultimate sin. That's what it is. It's he played God, and everything has spun out of control since then. And he's trying to put it all right, but he's doing it in the most monstrous of ways possible because the ends justify the means here.
Yeah.
Which is how we got here in the first place.
Yeah. And he sees no irony in that whatsoever. Because he is so convinced that what he is doing is right, and what he did then was right.
He's doing it to save everyone. That's why he played around with the plasma to begin with.
At least save Dutch, because he's like, you looked exactly like it. You're my do-over. I'm going to get it right this time.
And when we enter the story where we left off, Klein finally arrives. He says, hey, it's me, your favorite little guy. I'm going to deal with these Blackroot people. I'm going to shoot them with some darts. And it doesn't work immediately, but what it does do is
and Lucy
super effective.
is pissed because it stains her deck.
Oh, and she was freaked out too because the Blackroot agents did not appear on any of the scans. They were completely invisible. So that was a neat little detail to, again, heighten the stakes of they're even more scary than the Sixes. So there's that. But he dispatches them with a new toy that he's made.
Yeah, he's developed a toxin to kill Sixes. And it attacks the goo. And it is very successful. That's what he's been working on off screen for most of this season. And it's well worth it because it is very effective and very, very important in this episode.
How do you feel about the magical toxin that is the kryptonite for the Hullen as a plot device?
I like it. I think that it works well. It feels earned. Like, if it had been introduced any sooner, I don't think it would have. But the fact that it's, like, just in the nick of time now.
And it's related to everything Davin has gone through in the show. So it just feels like an extension of what we have already got rather than just a newly introduced Deus Ex Machina type device.
And it reflects how strongly... Well, how surprised Klein was by Davin's abilities, and that changed things and recontextualized things and opened up this third option.
It goes back to the flaw that he had with the plasma in the first place. He hasn't tested all of it. He hasn't waited. He hasn't gone through the process to understand the limitations and the drawbacks of it, because yes, it can shoot and kill a level 6, but you can't just pour the plasma, you can't just pour it on plasma, as we discover later on, and that will bite him in the ass.
It needs a catalyst.
It needs a biological component as well.
But it's like, that makes so much sense because that's how the Hullen work. They aren't something on their own. They are something when they are attached to a biological thing.
Come on. Are you telling me this shit is sentient?
When bonded with a human host, yes, we're sentient.
Host, so you're...
Hullen. No longer entirely human.
This episode is not just Wikipedia entry, the episode. This is not just what we often complain about with some sci-fi shows where they just get lost in the source of the details of the world. Because this is a Killjoys episode. So they do a job. And now they have all of this. They have a job to do, which is, let's go to this place where Anila has this MacGuffin thing, which was the sacred tree, where it has all of the original plasma source. So let's contaminate that plasma and wipe out all of these Sixes in the quad or in the area.
Just kill the parent, all of the kids die.
And that's
it's
the
something
plan.
that we see so much in sci-fi, and it so rarely works for either of us. I was thinking as we were watching it, I was like, this is the same logic that they apply in The Great Wall.
The Matt Damon, Pedro Pascal movie, yes. Why does it work here? Why is it not annoying or rolling of the eyes?
It doesn't solve the bigger problem. this isn't the way that they get rid of everything. It's the way that they solve this chunk of it. So that helps quite a bit because it's not just, oh, we've now got the trump card, done, dusted, everything solved. We get a big moment where we're fighting all of the things at once and then bam, everything's done. It's not like Avengers style either. It builds on the internal logic that has been set up in the world and the way that their sci-fi science functions. We know that the plasma is interconnected and there is a vulnerability to that connection that can be exploited.
And within this episode too, they bury the lead of it by dazzling and wowing us and the characters with the heist job, the break-in job of let's go to this ancient archive place. Let's play a role where I'm going to go in with Klein, you two boys be out here, Johnny, you're in the ship and you have to do this. Like each one of them is doing their thing to basically break into the archive and break into and get the sacred tree. The emphasis is on the difficulty of breaking into this complex rather than the difficulty of killing all of the sixes themselves or killing, taking care of the plasma. They say it up front that we're not going to do this the Klein way. We're not going to do this in a nefarious way. We're going to do this our usual way. And this season overall has been making sure to keep the namesake alive, which is these are bounty hunters. They do odd jobs. But as the plot starts to unravel, how do you still maintain that part of the show? And I think they've done a really good job this season. And this finale, with this in particular, is the great example of how they can have their cake and eat it too, which is this, you could remove all the green plasma stuff and this could have just still been an episode of this show from season 1.
Abso-fucking-lutely. And that's a high praise to the way that this show has been built. That all of these things work together and apart.
And the serialization just adds and it builds and it makes these simple bounty hunter stories start to come into much more complexity and humor and heart and mystery and intrigue. And
your yum yum laugh was a moment of like Fancy's being used as a human shield, and that is both humorous and serious and connected to the lore and how like they can use his like Fancy's abilities to their advantage. And they somewhat try and do that with Klein, but he's also unwilling to cooperate enough for it to actually be an advantage.
He does eventually help out when he puts his hand in the sunlight with the diamond so he can activate the thing. Like,
yes.
they juxtapose how the use of these 6 powers can be used for drastically different means.
It's a tool.
It's just another tool. Fancy, it's a joke. It's haha, isn't it funny that he's being used as a human shield while he's bitching about it and Davin's making jokes about it. But Klein, he's using it in a much more serious and genuine way, and it does hurt. He does feel pain when he does it because of just the extremeness of the heat and the flesh burning. But even then, he shrugs it off afterwards. But what I like is it shows that Klein is willing to sacrifice himself even though he is invulnerable or invincible at his own pain and cost, while Fancy, he's such a cocky guy that he is making jabs about how he's better than everyone else, and then when he has to be used as that way, he just is rolling his eyes and just very unimpressed, which says so much about the two characters, but also just says so much about the two drastic different ways they are these plasma-filled Hullen creatures.
But also the way that they would work together. Like, we didn't see a lot of them together, but the idea of Fancy being in alignment with Klein and working with him, even though he seems very attached to his identity as a 6/Hullen, like, he thinks that he's better now, but it's like he's working with Klein to try and stop other people from being that, and to stop people from having their choices taken away from them.
I liked just having Klein and Fancy be a part of the dynamic of a Killjoys episode and how they change it up. Klein, he is just he's a master assassin himself. Like, he knows how to kill, but he also knows how to schmooze people. And I liked so much when he is threatening the owner of the archive, but it's done in a gentlemanly conversation. Let me guess, you have some kind of self-defense mechanism if I hurt you? Yes, indeed, like this. Would you like some tea? No, I'm quite all right, thank you.
Yeah.
He's the only
matter of fact, just rolling through the options, rolling through the responses, just it's just like that ease of immortality of, okay, well, I can do this, I can't do that, accept, move on, respond, keep moving forward.
And then you have Fancy, who's like a cocky teenager who's trying to just peacock everyone and show how good he is. We knew what he was like in season 1, but he's been changed. And so it's kind of interesting to see the different dynamic, and yet so much is the same. Like, Davin's like, I kind of missed this, but also, like, you're an asshole and I hate you.
Yeah, like, I like you. Fuck off.
No offense, I always imagined my last stand blaze of glory being with my brother. Not you.
I heal, remember? You're the one having an existential crisis. Don't worry. I'll tell everyone you died sexy.
Let's talk about...
We have another major death. Klein is dead. He sacrifices himself. Ryan's major complaint is that he cut the wrong way.
Yeah, he slit his wrist, but he did it the wrong way. You got to go down the tracks, not across. The thing is, they find this tree. They solve this trap that's been laid before them, but the plasma, it can't just be taken out by this toxin. You can't do it like that. It needs
Gotta
more.
have a binding agent.
And they don't have the time. So Klein decides, well,
Yeah.
I'm a binding agent. It has to be me. And without even consulting Dutch.
Does it just bam. Like I was saying, it's like the gather information, respond, act. He's not used to having to discuss the things with people or debate or acknowledge anybody else's point of view, because he's so propelled by his own wants, his own needs.
And those are always under the banner of, I'm doing this for the greater good.
I know best.
Even in his death, he's justifying to Dutch why everything he did was correct. I did this to prepare you. I did this to make you
And
ready
another,
for the
like,
fight.
Remember these stories. Remember that story.
Recite
So
it with me.
it's
Recite
just
it with
like-
me.
Because in Cold Open, he's like, you need to remember these stories that I'm telling you, Yala. So it's like, well, what other stories has he left for her? What other breadcrumbs are going to continue to be revealed after Klein is gone?
There was this incredible line from Dutch where she says she never taught... There was this incredible line from Dutch after all of these things he said, which is along the ways of, you never taught me how to be free.
Mm.
And he doesn't have a single thing to say to that because he doesn't know either.
That is such a strong moment. But I think for me at this time, the moment that I am continuing to chew on and go back to is actually the line that Johnny has when, like, he goes and talks to her and he's just like, you don't need to talk, but I just need you to listen. And it's so beautifully put, like, in terms of the writing, but also the performance, the music works really well in that moment, and the sort of the off-center angle and close-ups shot.
And the physical embrace at the
Yeah,
end.
but like the moment where he's just like, you don't need anybody's permission to like love
someone
somebody
you
you
hate.
hate.
And he understands, as somebody who's a part of the shitty dad club, the complexities of that relationship and the abuse that one suffers under it, and the conflicting emotions about it. And he's listened to Dutch. She's talked through her journey about Klein with him. So it makes sense that he is here to say that. Because with Klein's death, did you see that as a surprise? Did you see that as a genuine shock? Because he's been such an overwhelming and overlooming presence. Even as Johnny says, he's been the motivation for Dutch.
Yes and no, because this show has been tracking really clearly that it's going to expand out. And, you know, we had them fighting against Klein more directly last season. We have Klein, like our perspective on Klein has shifted, and he's no longer simply just a villain in this one. So having him die would be tragic and really complicated. And it's also like it's a step out further because that puts him to the side so that Anila becomes the new problem that they need to confront directly.
Who is just another remnant of Klein himself. Like, she is the mirror of Dutch for whatever that means. But like that, his whole thing was
in whatever way that comes to be revealed, right? Because we see that there's a physical mirroring that's happening, and also like sort of the moral ethical thing of Anila seems to have fully embraced the monster in her that Dutch uses Johnny to help sedate.
I was very nervous at the start of this season with them reframing Klein and saying that perhaps everything he's doing is for our best interests. Perhaps he's not our enemy, but our ally. I was a bit worried about that because he is so clearly portrayed in that first season as the abusive father figure. And all the baggage that comes with that. Like, how do you feel about this parental figure who has been the most powerful guiding force in your life, but they're also someone that has broken you? And that first season handled it really, really well. Season 2 opens up and they reframe it, and it made me nervous. But what I just want to say is, then the rest of the season kept true to the first season. They showed Klein as
But you can never know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the truth is that there is no singular truth when it comes to Klein. That there are just too many shades to it to say yes or no. Like, was he a positive influence on Dutch? It's like, well, he gave her a lot of the skills that she uses, helped forge her personality, made her a force to be reckoned with. But
made
also,
her a weapon.
Yeah.
As he said in season 1, I made you a weapon. I didn't want you to be a victim. But he made her a victim as well. Like, that's the thing. What I like is season 2 started off making me nervous, but then the rest of it showed what Klein is. We saw him when in the pursuit of his goals, he is this joyful, but at the end of the day, inhuman monster. But when he is in orbit of Dutch herself, he is different. He does react differently. And that's what he says too, is when I was on my own, I was just following the company line of, we're the Hullen, we tell the 9 that you have this many years until we come generations until we assimilate you. And I bought into that. I didn't like it, but I bought into it.
I did the thing.
I did what I'm told to do, and I'm doing it. But then he met a young Dutch. And because of his guilt about what happened to his actual daughter, he's now decided, I'm going to fight back in my own way, and I'm going to do it like this. So there is something powerful about how there is a difference between Klein as a solo agent, this Machiavellian figure who's going to organize the bombing of Old Town and make it into level 6s and all this, and the man who, when he sees Dutch, he can't help but become this father figure. But even then, this show's wise. His version of becoming a fatherly figure is not so distant from that rogue solo inhuman monster agent that we see throughout the show. It's not like day and night. It's not black or white. It's very much blurred.
See how it is the same person, the same man, the same character, but just in a different light.
And I think it's pretty clear from what we're saying here, but just to ask it outright, do you think this show has handled Klein well in regards to not making it that you forgive your abuser or you see them as like, oh, they're a victim too, or any of that? Because that's an easy trap to fall down we were worried about.
It's not just one thing, right? It's more complicated than that. And that's a part of why I love that line from Johnny so much. Because you can love someone and hate someone and not forgive them and not forget the harm that they've done. But also, it's so hard to accept that all of those things can be true at once.
I really was happy as well when Johnny said all of this at the end. It's the show acknowledging it. It's the show saying to the characters and to us, the audience, that they know what they're doing when it comes to this core element of the show.
And whatever you're feeling, I'm sure it is more complicated than I can understand. But speaking as a member of the Shitty Dad Club, you don't have to forgive someone to miss them. And you don't need anyone's permission to love someone that you hate.
Johnny in this episode, I think the biggest shock was he was pretty level-headed. He wasn't hysterical. He wasn't like punching the wall or like fucking shit up majorly because he's so overwhelmed with grief, but the grief was ever present.
Yes. And then when he strikes out, it doesn't feel sudden. It doesn't feel unexpected. It's just like, no, he was being measured. He was like, okay, I'm gonna help them, and then I'm going to deal with this myself.
It's premeditated. This grief did not consume him in a way where he only becomes reactionary. It is such a heavy stone in his heart that it has turned Johnny into a much darker person, which is more unsettling and very, very upsetting as well. Like, it's unsettling and upsetting. Because Johnny, throughout this episode, like, he talks. He says to Dutch, like, this is how I'm feeling. This is the way it is. But he also says the iconic line of, I'm fine. Which is always a great way to say you're not.
Yeah.
We can drink in the Pre's bar. We can look at where the pool of blood is. It's fine. I'm fine.
I'm going to have a toast with Pre.
I'm going to drink Potter's favorite drink. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. I just need some space so I can fucking shoot Dulcea like a dog. But even then, like, that was premeditated. He did the fake Klein to lure her out there, which we saw earlier in the episode. Like, he did the computer program of Klein to be like, do this stuff for me. I'll give you immortality. And then he lures her out and just shoots her.
I appreciate that choice, but I'm also frustrated by what comes after. Because he decides to do this on his own, and it's frustrating because a lot of this season has been the audience being aware that he's driving a wedge between him and Dutch. And then we see what we think might be him overcoming that with him returning in this plot of this episode. And then he goes and does that, and then he's like, I'm running away from home. And it's just like, dude! They're doing their own shit, yes. But your shit can be their shit.
Throughout the whole episode, he was playing that he was back with them in some way because he had this stuff organized earlier on in the episode to go get
one
Dulcea.
last farewell.
You were surprised when we were watching this and doing our reaction. You were surprised that he shot Dulcea.
Yeah, and also that he just leaves her there to die,
just like she did with Potter.
Because it feels like you want to be sure. You want to be sure. You want to make sure that she is dead.
But he's beyond even that level of care. I thought, and I want to get your opinions.
Shooting her was more important than her dying from the wound.
I'm very excited and keen to know because we've always liked Johnny, and we've been having lots of conversations over the course of this podcast about his growth as a character, but also like his morality as a character.
Striking out on his own with Clara.
Yeah, but I wanted to get your opinion on what he says to Dulcea of why he did this in the first place.
Because he loved her.
Yeah. It wasn't for all these highfalutin reasons, like all the people you would go on to enslave.
Straightforward. You killed somebody that I love. I am going to kill you. It is 1-for-1 revenge. As simple as that. And that would have not been the case if he did get Davin and Dutch to help. By bringing them in, it brings in those other things.
And in terms of as a part of the arc for Johnny, from where we've started to where we are now, how are you with this? Because he's been willing to kill before, but it's always been for those highfalutin reasons, or it's always been some bigger justification. In this, he just says it's as simple as, you fucked me, I fuck you.
Yeah, it is just a murder. It's an assassination. It is that. But I don't condemn him morally for it.
Because you hate her.
You know that she's worse. And it does make it a little bit more complicated, and it is nuanced, the reason why he's doing it. And the fact that he's just like, it's not for all of those reasons that, like, I could say that I want you dead, like, it would make me sound like a good person if I was killing you for all those reasons. It's not that. It's just for her. And that makes it hurt more.
It's a true low point for him, because we've seen him not always argue against this point, but at least be on the other side of it himself. And now he has become this because he's had so much taken away from him, from this one individual that he can lash out at, he can strike at. And I adored the direction of Dulcea bleeding out there, hearing her own message, and like realizing I'm fucked, but then hearing her own message, and because she's such an egotist, because she's such she can't lose. That's the thing. She killed Potter because she lost against Potter, so she had to punish her for that. It wasn't because of any other reasons. It's because I lost, so I have to punish her. While Dulcea is bleeding out here, she realizes she's lost, but then she has this little smile on her face and this little chuckle because she has to win. Like, there's just this look from the actress's face of like this twisted vindication of like, I've won at the end of the day. It's like, oh, come on, Dulcea. And this is how good that is. 2-second shot visually, but it tells me so much about the character more than anything else has in this show. Like, she's had some great speeches and some great actions in the past, but like that little facial expression and the fact that we lingered on it as the final thing we see of her, boy, makes you hate her more.
Yeah.
Then Johnny, he can't stay around. Lucy stands up to him. That's how bad things are.
You want to leave without saying goodbye to Lucy? And he's just like, yeah.
But Lucy has his best interest at heart.
Yeah. And
as she always does.
She's teed up Clara to come on board. So he's got some company on his little road trip.
I'm very disappointed how Clara was reintroduced into the story.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that they did it, but I was expecting it to be more that she would come in and help with the heist side of things. And we didn't touch on some, like, the sci-fi nature of not having the vaults on the station of the archive. I really liked that.
It was great, and a hack mod could have been interesting in this.
Yeah, it could have been a really big asset to their team, but I guess it would have been an added complication because you've already got the addition of Klein and Fancy.
I just find that it's the weakest setup for the next season. I don't mind Johnny running away, and I don't mind even Clara being there with him as they take Klein's ship. I just find it aggravating and messy that it's just, oh, Clara's back because we said she would be back. As you said, it would have been nice if she was woven into the plot again, and then we lead into this. Like how, again, Fancy. That's what they've done with Fancy. He was woven through the plot, and then now he's teamed up with our gang at the end, and he's going to join the fight because he's a regular asshole again. Like, that's a nice setup because it doesn't feel as so blatantly like plug and play, while Clara, it just feels like we had her in episode 1, we said she would come back, and now she's back.
Setup, payoff, no middle.
Yeah, it's the one to me that's the biggest weakness of this episode is just Clara should have been involved in this episode or in the season more, so that way it didn't feel so blatantly like season 3 will have Clara in it. Yeah. It's like, well, she was an okay character, but not good enough for me to
that's
like.
Really fair.
she wasn't great enough for me to, like, jump over this hurdle.
Clara. What?
Lucy called me. Said you might need some company.
You need a wingman, and she has a gun arm.
So, as a finale to this season, was it good?
Yes. It was really good. The Clara thing was the most glaring chink in the armor, but it flowed really nicely. It wasn't overstuffed. The performances were outstanding. The direction had a really good mix of playing up and playing down and variations of things. So it was always interesting to watch. It was always engaging.
What makes it not just a good episode, but like as a resolution to this season's story overall?
It feels honest. It feels true. Like the authenticity is really there, and it's built on such a solid foundation.
To me, it's about keeping it simple, stupid. We introduced at the beginning of the season the level 6 danger. At the end, we've resolved that for now. It's not complete.
That arc,
it's not complete.
Is done, but it is now part of a bigger narrative.
And it was, the other part of this was the Klein of it all, the relationship there, which is tied to the level 6 thing, which is great. Like, these are interlinked. These are married together. So when we resolve him as well, we are also resolving that. To me, this is what makes it a good finale. Like, we have answers to things. Like, yay, we're not just left with a mystery box again.
The answers give more questions.
But
it's on the next level down, the next level deeper.
And we're on a more triumphant note, even though there are some sadder things. Dutch, Davin, and Fancy, and Pre even, are at a point of, like, we aren't afraid anymore. We're going to fight back. That's great in comparison to last season where they're on the back foot and they were worried we're going to have to find Davin. This is much more triumphant. It's much more of a high note, even though there's some sadness here. But again, as a finale...
But she still ends the season down a Jacoby brother.
And she's going to kick some ass. But again, this season finale wraps up two of the big things, Klein and the Sixes, which were how we set it up at the beginning. So, like, that's why I think it works. And all of the themes and messages and lore stuff that came with those things were followed through to the very end here.
Yes.
So, yeah, like, the fact that we spent most of this discussion talking about, like, the Klein and Dutch dynamic and their backstories and how they influence each other, I think says so much about how much this is a piece with the rest of the season.
I'm going to be really shocked if you manage to give this episode a yum, because I'm giving it a yum yum, which is good.
Yum yum.
This does deserve its high-ranking spot, according to IMDb. This is wrestling with being the top spot. It currently is, as of this recording, but then in a week's time will change. In the course of us doing the podcast, the top episode rated on IMDb has changed 3 times. So I've just been keeping a note of that, because this is the first one we've gotten up to that has been the top spot. The other 2 we have yet to see. But I just wanted to say that because this is phenomenal stuff. It's phenomenal in the way of being an individual episode, but also being a part of an ongoing narrative. I give it a tapestry. I give it a yum yum.
Yum yum.
Next episode will be a season 2 recap for Killjoys.
Talking about the high points, the low points, the things in between, counting all of the bitches of the season. I wonder if there'll be more than last, and I wonder who has said it the most. But yes, next time we'll be going over season 2, reflecting upon it all, looking at it also in comparison to season 1, and thinking about where the show will be going from here. And that is our discussions of this episode. Rachel, how about you take us on out? Tell everyone where they can find us and where else we post content and all of that.
They can find us on their social media of choice under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. Links are in the descriptions for our socials. Please rate and review us on your podcatcher of choice. And if you would like to financially support the content that we produce, you can sign up for our Patreon, where we have been doing extra bonus content for 5 years.
Our reactions to watching episodes of Killjoys are in full over there.
As well as a 5-year back catalogue of content that has never been seen outside the Patreon vault.
We have a community Discord that you can be a part of, all of that. But thank you so much for joining us on this journey, and we hope that you come with us as we go further into Killjoys, as we find out more about what's happening.
We like your company.
As we get the quad coming.
We don't like the company in this.
No, the company is a menace, but
Bad company.
Bad company. Thank you. But what I was gonna say is, there was a nice piece of symbology in this episode that we liked in our reaction, which was Klein's scientist uniform having the logo on it, which was of the quad with the circles and the triangle. That was really nice. But that his old scientist uniform then became the military uniform for the Black Root. It's like, again, the interesting way that they visually tell us that this whole weird Hullen society all stemmed from one old scientist playing God. Like, great stuff. Also, what a damn shame. He became a Hullen when he was a silver-haired man. You know, like, he didn't get to be a young dude. He just, silver-haired fox, that guy. But the final question I have for you, Rachel, and this is a big one that, I don't know the answer to this myself.
Yeah.
Because even though I've watched the show before, it's been too long since I can recall these details. But do you think Mossy is doing okay?
I do. I do. I hope. I hope. Because I feel like otherwise Johnny would have said something.